tonight we're paying tribute to the celebrated Nigerian movie director and one of the UK's most prolific black authors, Biyi Bandele, who's died at the age of 54. He was an internationally acclaimed novelist and playwright who also became one of the most prominent Nigerian international filmmakers, winning an impressive reputation after becoming the first ever Nigerian first-time director to make a movie with the biggest budget in Nigerian history, Half of a Yellow Sun. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now by a close personal friend and Arise News anchor, Steve Ayorinde, who is also the immediate past Commissioner for Tourism, Arts and Culture in Lagos State. Steve, thank you so much for coming in. You're a busy man and we appreciate the time, but I guess it underscores how close a friend you were to Biyi Bandele. You knew him both as an artist and as a friend. Help us take a personal look at him. Who was he? Where did he come from? Who did he become? And how did he get there?
All right, thanks. Thank you, Charles. Well, I mean, Biyi was a creative person. He was a storyteller, and he was African all through his life. From when he was young, you know, of course, as you said, he was born in Kafanchan in Kaduna State. That's where he spent his formative years till he was about 15, and then moved to Lagos. After then, 2 years after then, he went to the Obafemi Awolowo University. But all through those years, even as a teenager, it had become very obvious that he was a creative person. He was intensely private, and he derived a lot of inspiration from his parents. His mom was known as a storyteller, so Biyi took after her. But his dad was also, even though he was a war veteran during the Second World War, but he also learned a lot from Baba Solu. Baba Solu, that was his father, Solomon Bandele Thomas. Everybody called him Baba Solu, and that was what Biyi, used to call him. It was through him, first and foremost, as a young lad, that he got familiar with the works of great men in the literary and theatrical space in Nigeria. He knew Chinua Achebe through his father. He knew the works of Professor Wole Soyinka through his father. As a matter of fact, it was the TV that his dad brought home at a time that first introduced him, to the world of make-believe. And right from a young age, he had started writing. It all blossomed when he got to Obafemi Awolowo University, now University of Ife, that it became obvious that this is a brilliant, bright young man who will be well applauded later in life as a writer. You also know the story of the play that he wrote in 1989, Rain, which is submitted for an international competition in the UK. And by 1990, when he was leaving Ife, incidentally, the play also won the first prize, which earned him a scholarship in England. So that was why he traveled. He didn't have any intention, and I'm sure that he mentioned that in the interview that you had with him last November. He didn't have any intention of totally relocating, but then things turned round in the UK, and it became, a London boy, got trained the more, started writing. His talent basically, blossomed in the UK as a poet, as a playwright, as a screenwriter, and as a director. He learned from different people. But what was clear was that he never forgot his roots. And you will see that from the way he dressed, the way he loved to appear, his clothes, his hairstyle, and then he dropped the Thomas. Bandele Thomas. He dropped Thomas out of his surname because he wanted to stay true to his roots as a Yoruba man Incidentally, you realize that the last novel that he wrote, The Running Yoruba Man, will come out in 2023 under Penguin Books. So you will always find, things about identity. He was very high on identity. Even though, like Mo, I listened to a bit of what Mo said, even though Mo was very correct about the fact that he was intensely private. And that's not something that should surprise anybody who is a creative. He loved to spend quality time with himself, few friends, few people that he trusted, and that's it. So you can expand the argument to say that maybe part of the Biyi persona being very closely guarded is also what has played out even in death. Because for me, for example, as close as I was to him and a few other friends that we had, nobody heard the story from Lagos, even though he died in Lagos. It was from London, from a mutual friend who is currently staying, trying to console the daughter who signed the press release from the family, Tommy, and his former wife, the mother of Tommy, Andrea. It was through her that, I first got to know about this sad occurrence last night. I mean, this is to tell you that he wasn't everywhere. He was more into himself and to his intuitions and to, his muse. That was Biyi for you. Intensely private, intensely creative, but you wouldn't call him a people person. He drew people into his works through what he did, through his poetry, through his photography. He was also very big with photography. As a matter of fact, many rare pictures of Isaleko, of museums, of his encounters with different aspects of Nigeria's and UK's cultural life, you will encounter them through the photographic works of Biyi Bandele. So he was, as a creative, he was an all-rounder, but you wouldn't find him everywhere. He wasn't that type of a person.
I have to say that I saw some of those pictures. I knew him reasonably well, not as well as you did, but I saw some of those pictures on Facebook. He used to share them because he's my friend on Facebook. But Steve, I want to thank you very much indeed. I mean, unfortunately we've got very little time left, but I really appreciate the fact that you paid this personal tribute to him, and I'm sure wherever he is, he will keep that close to his heart. So that's Arise News anchor Steve Ayorinde, who was also the immediate past Commissioner for Tourism, Arts and Culture in Lagos.